This is the story of Yeh Shen. Long, long ago, in ancient China, there lived a scholar and village chief named Wu. As was custom at the time, Wu had married 2 wives who each bore him a baby girl. He named one of his daughters Yeh Shen. Yeh Shen was intelligent, charming, and gifted in many ways. At an early age, she had mastered the skill of fine pottery making and could write the most beautiful poems. On the other hand, her half-sister, Junli, was spoiled, lazy, and self-interested, with no desire to learn or to develop new talents. Now it so happened that Yeh Shen's mother had died at childbirth, and when she was just a girl, Chief Wu, her father, also fell victim to a local plague and died too, leaving poor Yeh Shen as an orphan with no choice but to be reared by her stepmother. Unfortunately, Yeh Shen's stepmother was a mean and hateful woman who resented Yeh Shen for her intelligence, charisma, and beauty that far surpassed that of her own child. She therefore resolved to take her stepdaughter in as the household slave, forcing her to wear rags as well as clean floors, collect firewood, and draw water from the nearby well. The stepmother and Junli would often mock Yeh Shen, who always silently did her work without any complaint. One day, Yeh Shen was out by the well drawing water, and as luck would have it, she came across a little fish with big golden eyes and ruby-red fins. Yeh Shen could not believe that such a lovely little fish were real. She loved it so much that she decided to take it home and care for it in a large water-filled bowl. Though the young lady had little food for herself, she was willing to share everything she had with the fish. Under her care, the small fish grew every day and soon became too big for the bowl. Yeh Shen then had no choice but to move it into a pond nearby, making sure she visited her friend every single day. When dawn came around, she ran over to the pond and the fish popped out of the water to greet her. This became a daily occurrence, and the fish became her one and only companion during this difficult time in her life. It was not long before Yeh Shen's stepmother heard about her friendship with the fish. She grew angry that her stepdaughter had found happiness, and the wicked woman resolved to hatch a plan to kill the fish. One day, as the first light of dawn shone through the trees, she followed Yeh Shen to the pond and saw her talking to the fish from a distance. Then, when Yeh Shen was out of sight, the stepmother approached the bank, but the fish did not emerge from the water as it did for Yeh Shen. Instead, it remained hidden in the deep, murky water of the pond. So the next day, the malicious woman ordered Yeh Shen to fetch water from another well far away from the house. She then ran over to the pond and imitated her voice as she called to the fish. Unaware of this deadly trap, the innocent creature floated up to greet its friend, as it did every day. But by the time the fish saw the dagger, it was too late. Yeh Shen's stepmother had cruelly killed the fish on the bank, cooked its flesh, and then deeply buried its bones in the household rubbish. Poor Yeh Shen was distraught when she learned of her friend's death, but she could do nothing but cry by the side of the pond. As she was mourning for her friend, an old man with long hair and coarse clothes flew down from the sky and landed by her side. "Don't cry," he said. "I know where the fish bones were buried. You go there, dig them out, keep them secretly, and when you are in need, pray to the bones and they will give you what you want. But don't be greedy in what you ask for, otherwise you will be punished by the god." Then the old man led Yeh Shen to an abandoned cellar before disappearing, never to be seen again. Yeh Shen spotted the heap of trash and quickly retrieved her friend's remains, being sure to take them to a safe hiding place. Remembering the warning of the old man, Yeh Shen rarely used the magic bones. But there came a time when a great and important event was to take place in the village, the New Year Festival. This festival gave young people in the village the only chance to meet and court one another. It was the day that every young girl would wear a beautiful dress and make her grand debut in the village. Yeh Shen was no exception, and she also dreamed of this for herself. However, she knew that her stepmother would not allow it for fear that someone would choose Yeh Shen for a bride instead of her own daughter. And besides, Yeh Shen did not even own clothes that were decent enough for the festival. Time wore on, and the day of the New Year festival finally came. The melancholy Yeh Shen, wearing her dirty rags, watched as her stepmother and Jun Li, dressed in their finest clothes, left for the festival. As the day passed, the desperate Yeh Shen finally went to her old friend's hidden remains and timidly made her first and only wish.
"Dear friend, I'd like very much for some clothes to wear to the festival. It may be my only chance for joy in this miserable life."
Suddenly, at the blink of an eye, Yeh Shen found herself wearing a spectacular gown made of dazzling kingfisher feathers. On her feet were a pair of golden shoes which were lighter than air and fitting of a goddess. Astonished at her sudden good fortune, Yeh Shen at once took off for the festival. When she arrived, all eyes were on her, drawn in by her charm and her beauty. Young, eligible bachelors flocked around her, dancing and singing ballads of love and devotion. The young women also looked at her from a distance with envy, complaining that the stranger had stolen their spotlight. Of these women, Jun Li was the loudest. She stared long and hard at the beautiful stranger, and then she suddenly screamed to her mother.
"Look, Mother, she looks just like Yeh Shen."
They both started moving towards Yeh Shen to have a clearer look, but Yeh Shen's sharp eyes were quick to notice them in the crowd. Fearing that she would be discovered, Yeh Shen dashed out of the festival, accidentally leaving behind one of her beautiful golden shoes. On reaching home, she quickly changed back into her rags and hurriedly lay down under a tree in the yard, pretending to be asleep. When her stepmother and sister came back home, they found her there and were happy that Yeh Shen was still in her rags and nowhere near the festival. It was not long, however, that Yeh Shen's golden shoe was found by a local merchant, who then sold it to the king of Tuohan. Tuohan was a strong and powerful kingdom in China that spanned thousands of miles as far as the eye could see. Fascinated by the delicate shoe, the young king could not resist yearning for its owner. He ordered his ministers to travel around the kingdom with the shoe and bring back any lady whose foot could fit into it. But after many weeks, not a single person was found. Indeed, the shoe was made of magic, and it could change its size at a whim. No matter how tiny a girl's foot was, the shoe always shrunk 1 inch smaller. Eventually, the king decided to call in the merchant that sold him the shoe to ask him about the exact spot where it was found. Upon discovering that the shoe was found near a mountain in the mainland, the king himself set off to look for the owner of the shoe. He had his men search every house in the neighboring villages, and after many days of searching, the golden shoe and the gown that Yeh Shen had worn to the festival were found, hidden inside a bedroom drawer. Yeh Shen was identified as the owner of the shoe and was hurriedly taken to the king. Pretty as she was, the king yet doubted that the village girl in rags would be the one he had been longing for. So he asked her to try on the shoes and the clothes. Soon after making his request, Yeh Shen emerged from the shabby cottage like a queen from a fairy tale. Her charming smile shone from her angelic face, and the golden shoes fit like gloves. At that moment, the king realized that Yeh Shen was the one for him. He then asked for her hand, and she readily accepted. Yeh Shen's stepmother and Junli, for fear that they would be punished for their actions, then threw themselves on the ground to grovel at her feet, begging her for forgiveness. Yeh Shen thought for a moment. Her kind and noble heart could not bear ill will towards them. Instead, she magnanimously forgave them, choosing to begin her new life without the shackles of bitterness and resentment. Finally free, Yeh Shen then rode on to her new kingdom, where she married the king and lived happily until the end of her days. The end.